Oh my God, if I die, I'm a legend. When they lay me down to rest, I know I was always repping. Oh my God, my whole life.
All right, now we're live. Welcome to the show, Eli. And go ahead and tell the audience who you are and what you do for a living.
Cool. All right. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Having me on your show because love talking about this stuff, and it's great information to put out there. So my name's Eli Martyr. I guess I would consider myself a naturalist, health aficionado, truth seeker, healer, all that good stuff. And I'm a professional stuntman. So I've always been interested in the arts, in martial arts, gymnastics, and I started doing that kind of stuff when I was younger. When I was about 12, 13 years old, so started with gymnastics and martial arts, and then I never really stopped. I kept training all throughout high school, university, and eventually that skill set, that hobby set, funneled me into the into the stunt side of the industry, and I've been working in film as a stuntman ever since.
That's awesome.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a very rewarding career because it's always something different. It's not your typical 9 to 5. Every day on set is just something drastically, or at least reasonably different. You're never doing the same thing twice. You'll be doing a swimming scene day, and then another day you'll be having a fight with an alien or something. Like, who knows? It's just it's all sorts of fun stuff.
Living your best life for sure.
So I mean, it just seemed to be a natural progression for me. Having a very heavy athletic background, different sports and whatnot, volleyball and badminton and basketball and all that kind of stuff. But gymnastics was my foundation, and then martial arts was my foundation. So Taekwondo and Muay Thai were my main striking disciplines. And then gymnastics, I kept training all the way through. And with the gymnastics background, that gave me a really solid foundation for every single other type of movement skill that was to come later on. For just as a side note, parents, if you want to give your children a good head start into just having a very good kinesthetic awareness for life, put them in gymnastics. I thank my parents all the time because it really, really helps with absolutely everything.
Yeah, gymnastics is a full body workout too.
Oh man, it's a full body workout, and it's a full body neuromuscular coordinating endeavor, right? It really gets you familiar with all the different types of ways that your body can move, and it also gets you familiar with rotations and falls. So I mean, numerous times I've had falls where the fall would be so successful. It would just fall and nothing would happen. I'm like, oh. Wow, that was, that could have. I remember a while ago, I was climbing a tennis, in tennis court, they have a fence that limbs the tennis court. Yeah. I was climbing over the fence, my foot got caught, and I fell from the top of the fence. And it's a pretty high fence, those tennis court fences. I fell from the top, and I remember it was happening, and I don't want to make it sound superhero-y, that the world went in slow motion. It doesn't happen like that, but kind of, in a way, because I was familiar with the feeling of falling, of being subject to gravity, of seeing the earth coming towards you and knowing what to do. And so I fell literally out of control, quote unquote, out of control from the top of this fence to the ground, just kind of rolled out, a bit haphazardly because it was unplanned for, but I was perfectly fine. I'm like, wow, that could have been really bad had I not had some sort of familiarity with that kind of stuff. So yeah, gymnastics is so key. Just as a side note, thought I would put that out there.
So you're like a real life Marvel hero.
It's the closest that you could come. Being a high level gymnast and then adding some martial arts, it's probably the closest you'll come to embodying that type of superhero prowess. Well, again, my dad exposed me to comic books when I was a kid. Spider-Man, Daredevil, so all those guys, they all inspired me. It really gave me a yearning to have freedom with my body. I wanted to use my body in just whatever way I wanted. So yeah, and that was the best way to help get me in that direction. Yes.
Oh yeah. When you were a kid and doing all this gymnastic stuff and everything and martial arts, did you ever see yourself becoming a professional stuntman? Did you go as a kid go, man, when I grow up, I want to be one of these guys?
Yeah. Kind of. I just wasn't really aware of the stunt side of the industry. I love the martial arts movies, obviously, and Van Damme and Bruce Lee, Steven Seagal, all these action heroes. Just loved watching them perform, particularly Van Damme. He was my hero. And so I knew I had I loved being creative, I loved acting, and I loved performing. So I just knew that I wanted to be behind the camera and perform and just showcase those skills and talents. It was only later that I realized, there's this stunt side of the industry that isn't necessarily acting. Right, you still act. I mean, you still get acting roles. You still go to auditions and whatnot when you're working as a stuntman. But it's just two different sides of the industry. And so, yeah, when I got to university, high school, that's when I started to clue into the fact that there was this stunt work path. And because of the connections I was making in the gymnastics facility I was training at, you happen to run into a lot of people that are working in film who are also gymnasts or martial artists or dancers or divers or whatnot. And they all go to these gymnastics facilities because they're just the best places to train those skills. So just by virtue of meeting associating with a lot of them, I started to fall into that group. And then it was just a matter of time before, I was invited into to different jobs, offered work here, offered work there, and then, get the ball going. And sure enough, I became a stuntman. Yeah.
Nice. What was the biggest hardship through that journey of becoming a stuntman? Because I'm sure, like, from being a child to now, there's some hardships. And then plus the biggest hardship was probably for actors, stuntmen, was COVID. Yeah. COVID kind of threw a wrench in everybody's plans. How'd you overcome all the hardships through that?
Yeah. Well, I'd say the initial hardship in landing a position in the industry is those first couple of credits, because the way it works is that there's an actors union here in Toronto. We have ACTRA. In the States, you'd have SAG, okay, which is the Screen Actors Guild, and here we have ACTRA in Toronto, and it's the actors union, and you need to be part of the union or you are accepted onto union jobs, which in all the big movies, big TV shows, are all union productions. There's a huge industry of non-union productions as well. They primarily focus on commercials. You get a lot of commercials that are non-union. You get small TV shows, small productions, internet flicks, all that kind of stuff. But if you really want to work in the industry, you have to eventually get a union status. It's a bit of a catch-22. They don't hire you unless you're union. But if that's the case, well, how the hell do you get into the union if they never hire people that aren't union, right? So yeah, that is the hardest part, is getting your foot in the door. Once you do, it becomes a bit easier. So how you would get your foot in the door is you would need to be so suitable for a particular union job that nobody else could do that job except you. Like, your audition is so amazingly good that even though other people are union, they're like, no, this guy is, even though he's non-union, this is exactly what we need in this commercial. And what would happen is they permit you. So they give you a permit, which costs them a bit more money, right? It's a bit of a headache, but they do it because they want the best product. And that gives you a credit. And that first credit makes you an apprentice. And then once you're an apprentice, then it's a bit easier. Now you're in the union, and then you can, after a couple more jobs, then you get full union status. But it's that first job that's difficult, because productions are sometimes unwilling to look at you if you're not union. But if you are a good businessman, because you're in business for yourself, you have your demo reel, video like reel compilation of all the skills that you can do. You have your resume put together, you have your headshots, and you have this package that you submit to productions. And so if the stunt coordinator, for example, sees that there's something that only you can do, then they will permit you. They'll go out of their way to permit you, and then that's how you get the ball going. So that is one of the initial difficulties and milestones that you need to overcome if you're getting into the industry. And the other one is depending on where you're coming from, it's not conventional, right? It's not really a path that you would find as an option when you go school. Never really something that's discussed. With my parents were always very supportive of me and whatever I decided to do. But I could always sense the motivation with which my parents saw me going after this, because it's not secure, right? It's not your typical 9-to-5 with benefits and pension. It's not that job. So the insecurity is difficult for some people, and so that's why it dissuades some people from even entertaining this, because it's not the stable thing, right? And so, yeah, my parents were always like, why don't you go after this career? Why don't you go in this direction? Maybe the stunt work, the industry, film industry. So they were a bit diffident. So I had to, I was part of that. And I had to just kind of be very headstrong and like, no, this is what I want to do. And then, of course, sure enough, after a couple of times, your mom sees you appearing on TV, a commercial and a TV show, fighting an actress, fighting an actor. They get so excited, and then all of a sudden they're happy for you. And so yeah, those are, I think, the two biggest things you have to overcome. Just the difficulty in getting in the first place. That takes it takes a thick skin. You have to be willing to accept rejection over and over and over and over and over and over. If you can't do that, this is not the business for you. And the other is just the society, the culture. It's just it doesn't. It's just not a typical job opportunity that is discussed especially in the schooling system.
Yeah. Have you ever had any major injuries when it came to being a stuntman?
No, I have never had any major injuries as a stuntman. Thank God. Luckily, knock on wood. I've had injuries before, but nothing major. I've had sprains, and bruises. Okay, bruises and cuts and scrapes. Yeah, that is part and parcel. But no, I've never had any major injuries. No major breaks or no major huge lacerations or anything like that. No, so I've been pretty good at pretty safe. Usually, I will only pitch what is well within my ability to do. If something is drastically outside of my skill set or comfort, then I will just offer other options to do that accomplishes the same thing, same thing. And yeah, if something is way outside of my skill set, then I would just say, nope, that's not for me. You can hire the other guy. I'll this isn't for me.
No, that's fair.
Now, yeah. Now, of course, you there's a certain range of things where you can't really say that if you're a stuntman, I'm only going to do these things and I'm not going to do anything else. You can't really go into it with that mentality. You are going to be put in positions where you're uncomfortable, where you're going to be doing things that are not familiar. You have to do these things if you want to have a career, if you want your reputation to have any sort of integrity. But it's so like if I'm stunt doubling for an actor and I'm the double, so I am the double, and the action is that he has to go flying through a wall, for example. If you just say, oh, I don't want to go flying through that wall, it's like, no, you're going through that wall. That's your job, right? That's what you're being paid to do. If it's a skill related thing, though, that's when it's a bit different. So I'm not a particularly strong stunt driver. I can do it, and I have done it many times, but it's not my specialty. So if a coordinator calls me out of the blue and says, "Hey, are you a driver? Drive this motorcycle through a ring of fire?" Then it's just like, no, that's not my specialty. You'd have to go with someone else. And be like, okay, cool. No hard feelings or anything. Yeah. But if you are hired for a particular thing, and then they ask you, okay, we need you to do this, and you just say, nah, I don't feel like doing that because, I don't like cold water or something. Yeah, you're not going to have a good career. It's going to be over pretty fast. So you have to be willing to endure a bit of discomfort, and you're going to have to be willing to adapt to all sorts of ridiculous situations. So let's just say you can do a backflip, right? You're never going to be on set and it's just backflip in comfortable clothes in a gym or whatnot. No, you're going to have to do a backflip while wearing clothes that don't move, while wearing a mask that you can't breathe in, while wearing, tight-fitting whatever, in shoes that don't work, in a room that's on fire, with smoke in your face. Okay, all these variables, right? You can't train for these. These are just things you need to do and adapt on the fly. So that's one of the challenges with this industry, is being able to take whatever your skill set is, but adapt it to the ridiculous variables that are going to be thrown at you on set.
Nice. I'm going to pause right here real quick, and I want to say thank you for everyone that's joining in. I see people coming in on mid-conversation. We are learning that this is a real-life Marvel hero. And we're going to soon do a segue to his nutrition, which is wild. Something that I'm not familiar with. Cool. And because we know that I'm 6'7" and I eat tons of meat. So I want you guys to...
big boy.
I am, man. I'm a giant. I usually tell people when they ask how tall I am, I go, I'm about 5'5", average height, So... But I'm gonna go ahead and let him take control over it again. I want to learn how he's able to keep being a stuntman with the diet that he has, because we're all taught to have, when it comes to nutrition, we're all taught that we need protein, we need certain amount of fats, we need all these things to maintain a physical body to do physical things, like for athletic sports or just to be in general healthy. So when you guys learn about what his diet is, you'll start questioning it, and just like me. But I have a buddy at work, and he's been like talking about this guy's diet like every day because he's about to do it. And so cool. The floor is yours. Go ahead and tell these people how you maintain a great physique with just fruit.
Okay. All right. Well, so as you guys heard, it's again a bit unfamiliar in the conventional health circle, but I eat primarily and almost exclusively 100% fruit, or even just fruit juices, or just simple liquids. It's a very, very simple diet. We're talking, the Adam and Eve diet. Okay, so if you could imagine Adam and Eve might be eating, that's how I live. Almost all fruit, sometimes a salad here or there, some vegetables here or there, but of the vegetable family, really only lettuce. Lettuce is almost my only vegetable. Of that, mostly fruit, to the exclusion of most all other things. Nuts and seeds, almost never. Last time I had any nuts or seeds, probably over a year ago. So they're on the menu. Nuts and seeds are on the menu, but they're not necessary. So I just want to explain to you what it is that I do eat, and then I'll go into how it is that is sustaining, and how you can be fit, healthy, and all that good stuff with just the minimal diet. So that is what I eat. A typical day for me, let's say, wake up in the morning, might not have anything. And maybe around 11 o'clock or so, a couple mangoes. That could be it for the day. If I feel like it later on, maybe it's more mangoes, or maybe it's a cantaloupe, maybe some pears. We're talking just the simplest diet that you could possibly imagine. So, and I don't really give too many examples of what I eat in a day. You find all these what I eat in a day videos. I don't do that too often because those videos would frankly bore my audience, because there's really nothing special about it. You know, like, Eli, what are you eating today? I don't know, pears, apples, couple oranges later on. Like, you know, that's it. It's the simplicity that is very confusing, as we are told in the health community, regardless of what camp you're coming from, whether you're the vegan, the vegetarian, the raw food vegan, the paleo consumer, the carnivore, whatever it is, right? Well, maybe not necessarily a carnivore diet, because that's just meat, right? But for most health understanding, we're told that we need a wide variety, a wide spectrum of all sorts of different types of highly nutritious, highly nutrient dense foods. And we're told that we need to get a certain amount of these things in our diet every single day in order to be healthy. Okay. So this is where the understanding of natural principles, understanding of natural law, understanding of the creative forces that guide and sustain life, an understanding of natural human instincts, okay, really help to avoid all the clutter and to really make it easy to recognize what is food for you, for a human being, and what is not food. So for me, it was understanding these things over time that led me to this very simple diet, to the exclusion of all sorts of other things that are not human food, and sticking with only what is human food. So if I use the term human food for the remainder of the discussion, I say human food. What I mean by human food is food that is accessible to the human body by virtue of the physiological elements and restrictions, okay? To the exception of those things that are restricted by your biology, by your physiology, okay? So there are only a few foods that your human biology has access to, okay? For example, if I were to tell you, let's just say I'm a zookeeper and I have a couple of sharks in this tank in my zoo, and I were to tell you, hey, you know what? I want my sharks to be healthy, therefore I need to feed them a healthy serving of nuts and seeds every day. You'd look at me and think this is probably the stupidest zookeeper I've ever encountered in my life, right? We all understand, we can recognize quite easily that sharks do not need nuts and seeds, okay? Why? Why is it that we're able to recognize that dietary advice as flagrantly stupid? Because we know shark physiology. We know that the thing is designed head to foot as a pure carnivore, okay? It's got ridiculously jagged teeth throughout its whole dental structure. It's built like a torpedo for ramming. The thing swims at 100 kilometers an hour. I don't know what speed it is. I'm just saying. It swims bloody fast. It can survive off carcasses from the day it's born, or whenever the time it is it starts eating, to the day it dies, and it will experience no health complications, no sickness, no osteoporosis, no cancer, no endometriosis, none of that crap. It lives perfectly healthy, and it does that by eating just one type of food: meat, dead bodies, rotting bodies, living bodies that it catches, or whether they're rotting in it doesn't care. It's designed as a carnivore, and that's what it eats. It does not have to search for a wide variety of nutrients from all sorts of other families of food. No, Mother Nature has designed the shark for one purpose: is to eat meat, and that's it. And the shark, likewise, it doesn't violate the laws of nature built into its own body and built into the construction that nature had built into the the way that nature has designed its body, it doesn't violate those principles. It doesn't violate the law of its own senses. The shark doesn't. Doesn't go up into a tree on land and start picking raspberries. Why? Because it doesn't have biological, physiological tools with which to do so. It is a sea-dwelling animal. It's a water being. Okay, so even if some scientists told the shark, you should probably include some powdered raspberry and whatever, some other human food in your diet, the shark would say, "That's great, but I can't access those things because I'm destined to live in the water for the entirety of my life." Okay. Now I'm making this. I always try to be very slow and methodical, right, with how I approach this, so that people can be on the same page with me as I go forward. I don't spend much time with science because there's a lot of delusion in science. Science is a different subject. Okay? I don't want to get into it now, but I want to follow a very straightforward, logical path that everybody can follow. Even a child can follow the logic here. When you follow these natural principles, natural, recognizable, intelligible principles, you get to a place where you can understand what food is and what it isn't in a simple way that helps you with all the clutter. Okay, so I've used this example of a shark. Recognize that I could pick any example in nature. Okay, I could use the example of a chipmunk, and I could say, if I were that same zookeeper and I were to tell you, yeah, you know what, I feel like I should feed my chipmunk the ground up bodies of seals, you'd look at me once again and say, this is the stupidest zookeeper that I've ever encountered in my life. We know that because chipmunks are not carnivores. Chipmunks do not have biological, physiological endowments with which to seek animal tissue, with which to hunt animals and kill. It doesn't have the teeth, it doesn't have the claws, it doesn't blah, 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 on it goes. It doesn't have the digestive physiology, name it, okay? From head to toe, this chipmunk is a plant eater. It's a gramnivore. It eats nuts and seeds. That's what it's designed to do, and the chipmunk will do that from the day it's born, well, till the time it starts eating, till the day it dies, and it will be perfectly healthy, no disease, no illness, no nothing, and it lives a perfectly functional, happy, healthy life, and it does that by eating one bloody thing. That's it, one type of food, to the exclusion of all foods. Okay, now, so I've used these two examples so far. The question now becomes, human beings, we have this culture around us. We have this magnificently huge, incredibly profitable food industry that has been erected, and we have this culture of food preparation that, with our human ingenuity, we've taken every single class of every single aggregate, and we've convinced ourselves that the whole gamut of food is human food because we can cleverly find ways to make these foods palatable. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here.
You're good.
But what I wanted to say, what I wanted to say was, okay, so I've used that example of the chipmunk and the shark. The question now becomes, so if hopefully you guys are out there are following with me, not using any science or anything. Question becomes, what is the human body designed to eat? What is human physiology designed ideally to eat? Okay. If nature is to be our guide, if we are to understand anything from the observation of the world, we must recognize, we cannot fail to recognize that in every single example of life on planet Earth, so long as you're on planet Earth, these rules apply to you. Every single example of life on planet Earth must eat only what its biological endowments allow it to eat, in its raw, unadulterated form, in its raw, uncorrupted form in nature as it's produced in nature. So if you're a giraffe, you cannot be eating things that you would have no access to with your biology. It's just the leaves and the trees, and that's pretty much it. And that's what the giraffe eats, forever. Okay, and it's perfectly happy with that. Same thing with the cows, and well, no, cows are a bad example because these are controlled by humans, so now they eat all sorts of other nonsense, GMOs and soy, okay, so that's a bad example. But any natural animal in its natural habitat, okay? So apes and monkeys and whatnot, no one's going to conclude that they should be eating gummy bears and Smarties, okay? So all life needs to eat what is prepared by nature, spontaneously prepared by nature in that form. And if in that form, that thing is completely unpalatable or unacceptable, then they don't eat it. They reject it, they avoid it. With human beings, okay? We are products of planet Earth. We are animals. We are living entities existing here on planet Earth. To imagine that we are not part of this law would be very naive. 25 million some odd examples of life on planet Earth. Human beings are, trust me, are not the exception. Okay. We also have a species-specific diet. Okay, I didn't use that term yet. Species-specific diet. That would probably help. Okay, we also have a species-specific diet, and our entire physiological makeup is exemplary of that diet. That diet is fruit. You, as a human being, are primarily a fruit eater. Fruit is the highly evolved form of vegetation that your physiology has the most immediate access to, the most efficient access to, the type of food that does best in your digestive system, in your frugivorous digestive system. Okay. It doesn't leave any harmful residues. It alkalizes the body. It's high water content. Everything in fruit. Fruit is the most highly evolved form of vegetation on planet Earth that grows on the planet. And as the most highly evolved life form on the planet, it follows that we would seek that type of food. But you don't even need to worry about that. It's just what your biology has access to. So the way to think about this, ladies and gentlemen, would be if you cannot eat a food in its raw, unadulterated, unprocessed form, if it's unpalatable, if it makes you gag, if it makes your mouth burn on fire, if it's indigestible, it's so hard and dense that you literally can't eat it. If it's any of these things, then Mother Nature is telling you that food is not suitable for you, okay? I will use the example of a bean, okay? Kidney beans, for example. How many people go, when they want a bean dinner and they go to the store and they buy beans, how many of you pick up that package of beans and are enticed by the beans to eat them right as is in the package? Has anybody ever had that inclination to eat beans as is in their raw, dense form? To answer my own question, nobody's done that. Okay, I know nobody in the audience listening has ever had an inclination to eat raw, hard kidney beans. Why? Because you don't have the biological endowments with which to digest hard kidney beans. And because you don't, nature has not gifted you with a desire, a sensitivity, right, to these beans when you see them. It doesn't inspire in you any sort of attraction, any sort of affinity. But if I threw a ripe mango in front of your face, all of a sudden, the smells hit you, the colors hit you. There's a sort of enticement by the mango to your senses, and you are attracted to the thing to eat it as is. It's because that thing is food, and Mother Nature was not a fool in programming you with your senses, delicate senses that align you with what is food and what isn't. Now, with those kidney beans, let's just say I were very, very silly, and I were just to try to violate the law of nature and eat these kidney beans as just for whatever reason. They can kill you, right? You eat enough kidney beans, and it's not many. You could actually die. If not die, then you would be sent to the hospital. They're completely unpalatable. Now, what the rebuttal to this is like, oh, well, Eli, you're being ridiculous. Nobody eats raw kidney beans. You have to cook them first. You have to break down the starches and you have to break down the fibers so that all of a sudden they're palatable. The answer to that, from a natural hygiene perspective, from a naturalist perspective, is that if you have to do that in order to disguise the true nature of the food, what you're doing is you're bypassing the physiological safeguards in your body, the gatekeepers in your body that prevent you from eating things that you're not supposed to be eating. By using ingenuity and trickery and cookery, we are fooling ourselves into believing that something that would otherwise not be food is now all of a sudden food. And then we put it into our body, but there's no hiding from nature, okay? You can't fool your system into believing that something is food when it really isn't. Your body knows better. Trust me, it knows better. And even though the bean has been made all of a sudden palatable by the addition of oils and seasonings and spices and intricate cooking and whatnot, and all the things that we do to hide the true taste of beans from our tastes, okay? Despite all of that, nothing changed. Your physiology has not changed. Your physiology has not said, you know what? For these next couple hours, I am no longer going to be a fruit-eating organism. I'm going to be a bean-eating organism. God damn it! Your body doesn't do that. It's still a frugivorous organism trying to digest that which is not supposed to be there. Okay. Now that brings me into my next little subject. Don't want to speak too long because I want to obviously give you a chance to ask some questions. But the problem comes when organisms that are designed to eat a particular thing eat outside of their species-specific diet. There are problems. So if you were to feed the chipmunk rotting hyena carcasses in the zoo, the chipmunk is going to get sick. If you were to feed the shark a diet of vegetables and nuts and seeds and walnuts, the shark is going to get sick, okay? Because they're eating outside of their biological restrictions. So nature has gone through extensive lengths to program into us dietetic sensitivities that align us with one particular food that is most suitable for our bodies to the exclusion of all other things. And when you do that, all the science, all the food science, all the problems, nature has taken care of all of it. It just hopes that you recognize the senses that it programmed you with. You stay true to those, to the exclusion of all other things, and in so doing, so basically, if you do your job, you've made a contract with nature. If you do your job, then nature will take care of you. Take care of your body for you, okay? So it's when we eat outside of our limitations that we get into problems. That's the last thing I want to say. So I want to give you a chance to chime in here, but yes, so to take away from everything I've said, as a human being, you are a fruit-eating organism. All of your physiological endowments, they make it obvious that you are a fruit eater. I'll just give one example. If you guys can see this, the fact that you have hands, this is a physiological indicator that you are a fruit-eating species. Fruit eaters have hands. Herbivores do not have hands. They have hooves, right? Big hooves or big pads of some sort. Carnivores do not have hands. They have big old claws and fangs and whatnot. We don't have any of these. It's really only fruit eaters that have these, so that we can pick at, be very nimble and dexterous, be able to distinguish colorful fruits from the green foliage around. Okay, we have trichromatic vision. We have color vision with which to see fruits and distinguish them. Okay, I could go down this list forever. There's from the teeth to the eyes, to whatever. So if you have questions about that, you can ask me later. But to simplify, you are a fruit-eating organism. There's no question. This was common knowledge in the 1800s, but it got lost in the 20th century and beyond because of immense financial pressure from the dairy industry and whatnot, trying to they infiltrated the universities. They didn't want this type of information suffusing into the public because it would take away from the profits of this massive burgeoning food industry. Heaven forbid that people understand that, you can be really healthy just eating fruit.
Okay.
Like Adam and Eve, the Adam and Eve diet. Right?
That's true.
So I guess just to simplify, so you're a fruit eating organism. You get into problems when you eat outside of your biological restrictions, okay? And all examples of life eat only what is to them and what they can palate with their senses. So for human beings, you're restricted to fruits, soft leafy green vegetables, nuts and seeds. That's it. Those are the three things that are acceptable to your human physiology. Everything else is not ideal human nutrition, or in the worst case is toxic and damaging to your body. And there it is in its simplicity.
There you go. Well, if anyone's got questions, while I go down through the questions that I have and the people around me that have, go ahead and post your questions. They'll pop up and I'll ask them. And for one of the first questions is, for an athlete like myself or any powerlifter, football player were to do the natural diet like you're speaking of,
right? How
do they maintain a big body? Because if you're in sports, you're going to need a big body. Football, boxing, football. How do you maintain that size with such a natural Mother Nature diet?
Yes, gotcha. And that's a very good question. It's a very good question. And this is kind of why I felt it was my obligation as an athlete, a gymnast, martial artist, because I do this and I started to live in this way. I felt that I really had to come out and show people that this is possible. Not only possible, but it's very, very healthy to do, and you can still be an athlete. You can still have high level of strength, endurance, and all this kind of stuff. Okay, the problem here is that most of us eating a conventional diet have packed on a certain amount of body weight that is not really us. That is not really our own body weight, our true body weight. I'm gonna say something that God, most people probably don't want to hear this. Okay, I know I certainly didn't when I got started. But most people, if you're eating conventionally, okay, are more than likely carrying around at least 20 to 30 pounds of garbage, of waste, rotting, dead material in the body that is not really part of your body. It's just jammed and lodged in your muscles, in your cells, in your interstitial fluids, in your fat cells, in everywhere, just adding weight and bulk and creating disease. Okay. Another thing that is, I know I'm slowly getting to the question, but I just have to preface it a little bit. So, during the Korean War, soldiers that fought in the Korean War, they were autopsied. Soldiers in their 20s and their 30s, young strapping guys fought in the Korean War. They did experiments and they did autopsies, and they found that almost every single one of them, even though they were 20, early 20s, maybe some, they all had heart disease. All of them, heart disease, or at least a huge percentage of these Korean War soldiers all heart disease. Because heart disease is not something that all of a sudden just hits you when you're in your later years. It's a slow developmental process. Now, you only get heart disease by introducing in your body what is not designed to be there. And it causes problems. It causes an accumulation of waste products and acidic poisons in the blood. The arteries, the body releases cholesterol, and it starts to safeguard your arteries. Okay, but I don't want to go down this too much, but you get the idea. So this is people in their 20s and 30s, and they all have heart disease. And these are soldiers. Okay, these are in shape, healthy soldiers. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because the average person does not realize the accumulation of damage that they are setting in stone, and they don't realize how much weight is on their body that is not actual weight. So the question is, how do you maintain the weight and as an athlete, as a football athlete. If you are a professional athlete, okay, professional football player or whatnot, I would probably not recommend you do this if you are still in competition. Not because it is not unhealthy. It is in fact the healthiest thing to do. The reason I say that is because there is a breaking down process. When you start eating a natural diet, a diet that is designed for your physiology, and you stop inputting into your body all the things that create mucus waste, that create toxicity, that create fat that gets lodged into your muscles as a defense mechanism, okay? As a defense mechanism so as not to poison your body with more toxic foods, essentially. When you start eating a natural diet, your body starts to purify, and it starts to purge, and it starts to clean house. And that cleaning house process, it has the effect of whittling down everything that is unnecessary and unnatural in the body, and it starts flushing them out of the system. So on the outside, what that looks like is weight loss. But this weight loss is necessary if you want the highest echelon of health, okay? There's something we have to remember. Fitness and health are two very different things, okay? In order to have a high level of health, fitness is required. But to have a high level of fitness, health is not necessarily required. There have been Olympic athletes who eat McDonald's, primarily fast food and burgers and highly saturated oils and cooked oils and butters and whatnot. Physical activity is a stress on the body, and you can train your muscles to become very, very good at whatever it is you're doing, even if the nutrition is not right. Okay, so fitness and health are two different things. So for that football player that I'm talking about, that's the linebacker who needs to keep on a good deal of weight. What I'm suggesting is that when that person adopts a very, very healthy diet, the body is going to be so overcome with this abundance of natural energy that the body is going to take that energy and it's going to start pulling out everything that is unnecessary. The body will not care if the person is a football player or not. This is beyond, the mother doesn't give a crap about this. It's only responding to the conditions at hand. So there is going to be a breakdown process where all the riffraff is getting pulled from your body, from your neck, from your face, from your legs, from your gut, from your colon, and it's going to be shuttling them off for elimination. And that breakdown period, it can take months, okay? But on the other side of that process, okay, when your body gets down to a level where where Mother Nature feels that is your natural weight, that's when you can start to put on healthier weights, clean and lean muscle tissue without the waste products and encumbrances, okay? So in my example, I used to walk around at 180, 186, 185 or so. Within a couple of weeks, several weeks, a month, the body weight just plummeted. And I looked like this. I looked exactly as I appear now, just bigger and thicker muscles. So I never carried around fat. I lost like 15, 20 pounds of just garbage, right? I was watching it happen. I'm like, holy crap, where is this weight coming from that I'm losing? Right? And it wasn't fat. I didn't have any fat on me. I was ripped, right? But what that told me unmistakably was that this waste that was being carried around in my body, in my muscle tissue, right? So on the outside, if I'm flexing to someone on the street, hey man, you're in really good shape. On the outside, that's what it looked like. But that's because my body was storing metabolic waste products in my muscles, giving me the appearance of being big and quote unquote healthy. But that's not what was happening on the inside. And I had health complications. We can get into that later. But yeah, so I lost all of this weight relatively quickly. And that told me, okay, wow, this was just a lot of waste and a lot of poisons just getting flushed out. So my answer is, let's just say you want to transition to a healthier modality of living and you are the professional athlete. I would suggest a bit of a transition. Introducing more fruits and more vegetables into the diet in their raw form, in their raw state, okay? And you can continue to include, some cooked foods here and there, healthier, cooked foods. If meat is part of a diet, then you can keep the meat in the diet, but make sure to combine it properly. No oils, no stimulating spices or whatnot. Eat your meat with a ton of vegetables. So let's say I'm having a steak. I would eat my steak with just a huge bowl of lettuce or arugula or whatever, any leafy green vegetables, and eat that. And that makes it much more digestible, much easier on your system. And that way you can transition more gradually into the raw living lifestyle without the immense shock of that huge flush. You can do it a bit more incrementally. So for that athlete that needs to maintain weight, if weight is really the issue where you need to maintain it, you would probably have to wait until a time where your career isn't based on the sheer weight and bulk of your body, where you can focus on health, all right, and not just the performance in that field. But if you want to just become healthier, then you would just do a bit of a combination. So introduce more fruits and vegetables in your diet. Your breakfasts would probably be fruit or a simple salad. And then your dinners would have whatever your dinner is, but include a lot of raw vegetables with that. And that way you will be slowly chipping away at the waste products in your body and getting healthier without the immense detoxification and shock of getting rid of all those poisons. So there's more to say about that, more strategies, but that's how I would answer that question. It's like, there's no easy way to say it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't detoxify and maintain 100 pounds of overweightness. It just, Mother Nature doesn't understand this. It's like, okay, if you want to be healthy, you have to get rid of all the waste products, because the waste products are not synonymous with health. They're antithetical. So Mother Nature, when it's given the conditions of healing, it says, okay, you're giving me the conditions that are required for healing. I'm going to get rid of all the waste. And that's what's going to happen, regardless of whether you want that to happen or not, right? So I understand the question, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to decide what you want, because Mother Nature won't distinguish, right? She won't cut you slack. If you start the healing diet, you're going to heal, and weight loss is part of the healing cycle. This is unavoidable.
So the follow-up question when it comes to the stuff like that is, so when people go through, let's say someone either overweight or someone huge and athletic, if they go from their current diet and a drastic change to the Mother Nature diet, is it possible for the body to go in shock? Like, there's such a drastic change and your body's used to taking in tons of carbs, tons of sugars. Would your body go in like some sort of shock? And there's potential risks with that shock.
Yes and no, but I'm gonna steer more to the side of no, not particularly. I will say, okay, shock in the terms of something that is damaging or unhealthy, no. Not that it will hurt you, no. Shock in terms of your emotional equanimity and your emotional state and what you're accustomed to, the mental shock, right? If you're not informed on what you're doing. So if I'm introducing this radical new diet to someone who has no information on the reasons why this is happening or the reason or what I'm doing, to that person, that mental shock is going to be unhealthy because they're flooding their systems with stress. Okay, but it's not the change in diet that is unhealthy or harmful. Anybody can make this drastic transition. People that are on death's door, racked with cancer all over the body, okay? When they have no choice left but to make drastic changes in the diet, they do, because the motivation is very, very, very high. And when the motivation is sufficient and when the motivation is high, it seems to be able to just override all of these apparent cautions on shocking the body into a new state, right? And sure enough, they get healthy. Joanna Brandt, who wrote the Grape Cure, it's a very interesting book. I believe it's from the late 1800s. Amazing book on the things that she was able to do with her patients, feeding them just grapes, just a diet of grapes. That's it for a small period of time, for like a month or whatnot. And people with the most awful degenerative conditions were able to make beyond 100% recoveries, from being tied in bed with racked with infirmity to just all of a sudden being out of bed, healthy, skin just all of a sudden starts glowing and clears up. Just a transformation, like literally transformed, or just health transformation, right? So and that's because they made drastically shocking changes to the diet because there was no other choice. So anybody can make these drastic changes, okay? And they will get healthier. However, if you want to lessen the intensity of the detox symptoms associated with making that change, yes, you can make a more gradual transition, okay? So slowly crowding out or weeding out things over time. This is something that's perfectly fine. So yes, you can make a drastic change and still be very healthy. And no, it's not going to hurt you. It's just that you might experience some detox symptoms depending on how encumbered the system is with poisons. So you can take that approach, but you also can take the transition approach, which would make the ease of detoxification a bit more tolerable, and you would still get to the same place in the end. It wouldn't make a difference. So you can do it all in one shot, or you can gradual there. Either one will be just as healthy, just as fine. So you're not going to shock yourself so that it's unhealthy or damaging to your kidneys or your liver or whatnot. There may be, I'm willing to concede, there may be some very particular cases where that is true, where you could shock your body where it hurts you, but by and large, the average person would not have to worry about this. No.
Man, it's so fascinating with the whole aspect of it all, because like you're familiar with water fasting. Do you agree water fasting from once a month or whatever the occasion that people do is healthy as well?
Yes.
Do you ever fast with your fruit diet, or do you just kind of just stick with the fruit diet? It's already low calorie.
Yes, I do fasting. Yeah, very often. Fasting, the natural diet with high percentage of my coming from fruit. Every once in a while, maybe a salad, maybe some leafy greens, and even more rarely nuts and seeds. So in addition to that lifestyle, I like to call it the Adam and Eve diet, because it paints a picture in the head. It's like, oh yeah, people would get that, right? So in addition to eating the Adam and Eve diet, has been a huge part of my journey. Huge part of my journey. I started with so there is immense benefit in fasting, yes. So for people in the audience, if you hear some health practitioners or some health gurus say that fasting is too dangerous, you should ignore them. They have no idea what they're talking about. Fasting happens in nature all the time. People who are dog owners, pet owners, if they've noticed when their pets are sick or injured, they will instinctually fast to the exclusion of food, and they will get better fast, quickly. All deer will do this. Sick deer, they'll just slump down under a tree and do bloody nothing, just fast. And they just animals innately understand the necessity to not eat. I'll really quickly explain why in a super easy to understand way. When you go to sleep at nighttime, you've expended all this energy during the day. And what is the only way to reconstitute your energy so that you're ready for the next day? Is it to continually eat throughout the night and gain energy by eating all night, right? I try it. So you guys out there, if that's how you think you get your energy, try substituting sleep for more food. See what happens to you. Okay? It doesn't work. It just does not work. You need to sleep. And what happens in sleep is you are getting a complete physiological rest, right? From being awake. So it's the opposite of being awake is sleeping. So your brain shuts off, your body shuts off, and you get rest. You wake up in the morning after this rest and you feel completely rejuvenated, right? Okay. Eating also has its antithesis. The antithesis, of eating is not eating, is that physiological digestive rest. So all the organs in your body, all the metabolic processes that run 24/7 in your body, just like your bicep or your chest, if you're doing press at the gym, nobody would ever do chest press 24 hours a day, all day, never rest. No, you need to rest in order to gain the benefits. So in order to have better digestion, better absorption, better elimination, better metabolic function, better heart rate, better everything, better blood pressure, better chemistry, all of that stuff, it's good to have a rest. And the way you get rest is by not eating. It's just the opposite of eating. You eat and then you stop eating for a period of time, and that gives you amazing rest. And then when you start eating again, your digestive physiology is rejuvenated, just like how you yourself are rejuvenated every time you wake up in the morning. That is a very simple way to think about fasting. Very simple way. It follows a natural consistent, right? A natural principle of rest. Okay, and it dovetails perfectly with the natural phenomena we can recognize in our daily lives. So if anyone has anything bad to say about temporary fasting, they simply do not understand what they're talking about. They do not understand the natural principles that govern life. So yes, water fasting, very healthy thing to do. You want to ease yourself into it. Start with water fasting. Anybody, I don't care who you are, can do a 3 to 5 day fast very safely, beyond safely. The human body doesn't go into physiological starvation until at least 40 days, meaning you need to fast without water for 40 days or more before you actually start physiologically starving. Okay, and that varies from person to person. So everything that happens up to that 40-day mark is just detoxing. Okay, so there's no starvation from 0 to 40, 50 days, whatever that number is. Okay, it's all just an incredible detox. So the average person, I don't care who you are, 3 to 5 day water fast is going to be amazingly healthy for you. Amazingly healthy. And I'm not going to go into everything. I want to give you a chance to ask another question. But if you just want to conceptualize in your head, just draw an analogy between you waking up in the morning, feeling good, and your body doing the exact same thing. And you'll understand why fasting would be a benefit to you.
I actually plan on doing a water fast myself tomorrow. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's very healthy. And you know what? There's certain things about fasting that you really just have to experience. It's people just understand unless they actually experience how they feel. It'd be like trying to tell a blind man what the color red is. You can't. You just need to be able to see the color red to know what it's like, right? So once you feel it, you reset your taste buds. You start to have an appreciation for the fine subtleties in food. You fast for 3 days, and all of a sudden, that quote-unquote bland cucumber, that was never appealing, all of a sudden, you're looking at that thing and like, that looks like the best thing in the world, right? It's fasting reignites your natural human sensitivities to good food. Nobody wants a super, super salty ham and cheese egg sandwich after 4 days of. You kind of want some really, really clean, light stuff, right? It's amazing. It does wonders for the body.
Perfect. We have about 10 more minutes. And this has been a great episode too, and I really appreciate that you jumped on. And you're the first guest back. We took a break, probably about a month or two break, and you're the first guest back, and love it. And so my thing now is, there is people in the audience that are very interested in following your diet, and let's just say it's not even your diet; it's the Adam and Eve diet. I'll roll with it.
Correct. Correct. It is not. This is the human diet.
There you go. Go ahead and give them like a challenge. Even myself, I would challenge myself because I'm about 290 pounds. I plan on competing again. I do gotta drop weight. So I got to drop down to 245. I think my natural weight is 225. That's like the smallest I can be. Give me and the audience a challenge. See what we can do. Like a week challenge.
Okay. Yeah. I've done, yes. So a good challenge would be, so speaking to the average person who's eating a conventional diet, I would say pick 3 days at first. Pick 3 days out of the week where you restrict yourself to no cooked or processed foods. Okay? Only foods that are, so fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Those are your foods. Those are the human foods. Those are the only things that work in the human physiology, that without breaking down into horrible waste products that toxify your tissues, that acidify your tissues, that make your body have to spend resources in buffering the acids associated with those things. Okay, so if it's not a fruit, if it's not a leafy green vegetable, if it's not, or a vegetable that you require to cook or process in order to be palatable. So for example, cauliflower, all right? You go to every average vegan website and they'll extol the benefits of cauliflower and broccoli. Oh, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Never recognizing for a second that you really need to cook cauliflower for it to be remotely palatable. No one is taking cauliflower and going, this looks amazing, and eat it. Nobody's doing that. Okay. And if they are, I guarantee you that if it were a competition between eating a meal, a bowl full of just cauliflower and a bowl of mangoes, or a bowl full of grapes or something, if you tell me that you're going after the raw cauliflower over the bowl of grapes, I know you're lying. Because you're a human being. I know you're lying. So anyway, fruits, vegetables, leafy green vegetables, so lettuces essentially, and nuts. Pick 3 days. This is a challenge. Pick 3 days or 4 out of the week where you eat only from those food groups. Only from those. You are not allowed to eat from anything else. You're not allowed to season food. You're not allowed to add salt or pepper or add oils or do any cooking of any sort. You can only eat what Adam and Eve would have access to. Some leaves that are palatable to your taste buds, that feel nice, okay, that you can tolerate, that are tasty. Nuts and seeds. 3 days during the week or 4 where you eat only those things, and then the rest of the days in the week you can eat your regular diet, and you see how you feel on those days. Okay, so that would be a good beginner challenge, is to pick 3 to 4 days out of the week where you're eating only raw foods that your biology is designed to eat, and then the rest of the time you can do whatever it is your regular diet is, and see how you feel. Just be mindful of your body, right? Recognize what's happening. See how your digestion responds to simple, clean foods, right? Notice the differences. Notice how you feel the morning after you eat that heavy, cooked starch, cooked grain, or cooked meat diet, which cooking in any of its capacities, right? Notice how you feel. Notice how you feel waking up the next morning after a simple, clean, like a big bowl of lettuce and tomatoes and cucumber and zucchini and whatever, just any raw food that you can tolerate. So that would be an entry-level challenge, is to pick those days out of the week. Pick a couple of days where you're eating raw, the other days where you're eating just whatever it is you're accustomed to eating, and be mindful of the differences for a month, or less, 3 weeks, give or take whatever time you want. But that would be a good way to start familiarizing yourself with cleaner food.
I myself will be taking this challenge, and probably my girlfriend will probably do it too. It's something that I'm interested in. My
Oh,
buddy's
cool.
been poking me to do it. He's like, come on, man. And it's funny too
Yeah.
because people are now just coming in. Like more people are coming in. This guy goes, "No cooked food." This guy for real? Uh,
You know, I'll respond to that. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how again, it's like I said earlier, it's like trying to tell the blind man what the color red is. It's so hard to understand until your entire digestive machinery gets woken up to the splendor and to the grandeur of clean food, until your taste buds start resensitizing to what actual food is. You'd be amazed if years ago you told me I would never want anymore my sweet potatoes, you know, cooked in coconut oil with salt and pepper and whatnot. That was my go-to food. If someone told me that I would not be wanting that meal, I would have told you were absolutely out of your mind. I will be eating this for the rest of my life. I don't care what anyone says. Trust me, I know what that feeling is. But it's different. It's fundamentally different once the body is clean, or at least cleaner. Once the body has thrown off all of the waste products associated with eating these things that don't break down properly in human fruit eating digestive physiology. Once those things get out of the tissues, all of a sudden, all of these natural senses just wake up and they crave and they want more and more of the clean things. They don't want to be encumbered and tied down. They become sick of the nose constantly dripping with mucus because the body's just desperately trying to expunge all of these things and poisons from your system, right? Once you start feeling what that feels like, trust me, it's different. It's just different. You just don't want those things anymore. Or at least if you do, or you get curious or you experiment, you go back and you eat those things, but then how it is going to feel is just like, oh man, okay, I'm just going to go back to my clean eating. Like you develop the sensitivity over time. But I understand, trust me, I understand. I ate just like everybody. I had the worst diet. Trust me, I know exactly what that feels like.
Yep, looks like my girlfriend definitely accepted the challenge. I got a person up here, Savannah Ray. That is so
Cool.
true. I fasted for 3 days and had a small fruit cup, and it was amazing. And the flavors were bursting in my mouth, and feel like I truly appreciated that fruit in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, you will retrain your body to eat only what it was designed to eat. Just like every single rhino, hippo, giraffe, shark, chipmunk, whatever. Okay, just like all of these animals in nature, 25, 26 million examples of life on planet Earth. Absolutely none of them eat outside of the laws that nature has programmed into their body. Absolutely none of them. Humans are the exact same. We are designed in the same way. Nature did not just skip over humans for some malevolent reason. She was not that stupid, okay? She designed you for a species just like every other example of life, and that diet is primarily fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, okay? And everything else that requires some sort of human trick to be able to make it palatable so that it bypasses the safety guards, the safeguards in your palate, right? If you have to do that to the food before it's edible, you have to ask yourself, why am I trying to trick myself into believing what was not food before is now food? When you actually really sit and think about that question, for example, you start to come to terms with an uncomfortable reality. And that reality is that the world around you has erected a culture of food eating that has absolutely nothing to do with the natural truth that governs eating and diet. And that truth is that eating and diet is so brutally simple that the health community will not accept it. Because if it does, then it has to rewrite. Imagine what happens to the food industry if everybody recognizes that they are, like Adam and Eve, fruit eaters. right? Imagine what happened. It's chaos, right? Everything's going out of business. You have to, okay. So financially speaking, this is just not going to fly. So they need to convince you, you need to get a wide variety of this. You need to load yourself with this probiotic, and you need to get that, and you need to cook this because more nutrients are released when it's cooked. Yep. Nonsense. It's it's all quite silly. I know you have to go. I know we're running out of time here. You're told that some things are more nutritious when they're cooked, right?
Yep.
We've all heard that. Tomatoes. You ask someone, tomatoes are more nutritious when they're cooked, and irrevocably what you're going to hear is, because lycopene, you get more lycopene. There are hundreds of phytonutrients and phytochemicals in all fruit, including tomatoes, that are not only hundreds that are unrecognized, admittedly unrecognized by food scientists, hundreds that we do know of, but of the ones that we know of, there's many more phytochemicals and enzymes and nutrients that we just don't understand and don't recognize. Okay, what about all of those? When you subject something to heat is a destructive element. Don't believe me? Take a flame to your finger, hold it there for 2 minutes, not even a minute, 1 minute. Hold a flame to your finger for 2 minutes. Your finger's going to hurt. It's going to burn. Okay, for the rest of your life, the nerves in your finger will be severely compromised. You might not even be able to touch like you could before after that 1 minute of fire. Okay, fire destroys organic life. Why on earth would we imagine that fire ignites the creation of new nutrients in our food? It makes no sense. You do not need science to understand this. You just need rational, logical brain that has not been corrupted by food culture. Okay, when you subject this tomato to cooking, to heat, right, for whatever 5 minutes or whatever it is that we're doing with our tomatoes, food scientists see, hey, this particular enzyme increases in its quantity. That's great, but that doesn't mean that the original quantity of lycopene wasn't exactly what nature determined was best in the tomato, right? And all of the other enzymes and vitamins and whatnot that are destroyed, well, what about those? Okay, no, this is science out of control. Okay, cooking does not improve the quality of food. What it does is it makes some foods that are unpalatable all of a sudden palatable because they've started to break down under the pressure of the heat, right? So that you can palate it, right? But in terms of eating like a human being or like an organism of planet Earth, cooking is not in the equation. No animal has a stove. Nature didn't equip us with burners on our backpacks or on our backs, right? No animal has got friggin' microwaves growing out of the side of their cheek. This is just human contrivance. Okay, so when you actually sit down and you think about these things, you recognize the inherent wisdom and the obvious truth of this modality of living, and you recognize it, and it takes away all the complexity that the food industry wants you to get confused with.
All right, last question because we're running out of time, but
yeah, sure.
Hey, everyone, we're going to probably have to convince him to do a part 2 again because this dude's passionate and he has the knowledge. But the last question goes, does air frying make a difference? There is no fire, but does air frying make a difference in nutrition?
No.
I heard that. I can feel the guy go, dang.
Methods. No, okay. I'm being a bit. Methods of cooking do make a difference. There are methods of cooking that are far less injurious than others. So if you have to cook food, so let's say I were to enjoy a bowl of broccoli, for example. I want to experiment with a bowl of broccoli. I would steam the broccoli. I wouldn't fry it. I wouldn't boil it. Because that particular method, it's not as destructive as the other forms of cooking. So, okay, yes, there are forms of cooking that are less destructive. Okay. Air frying is a much better idea than deep frying. Okay, and I would suspect that air frying is probably a better idea than boiling as well, because with boiling, you simply boil all the nutrients into the water. So if you boil food, then you should just throw out the food and drink the water. But with air frying, steaming, steaming is probably your best option. I'll just say that. Steaming is your best option because it requires the food to be to less time, unless you can do it in the same time with air frying. But it's still not ideal. You still create in the food toxic chemicals. The Maillard reactions, you can Google this and find out for yourself what the Maillard reactions are for the audience. But you always create waste products and toxins in food when it is cooked, because it is now no longer an organic substance. The minerals coagulate, they become inorganic. The proteins coagulate and they become hard, dense proteins that you can't digest. On and on it goes, okay? So again, the analogy, if you want to understand what happens to your food when you subject them to heat, you hold the flame to your finger, it burns. Jump in steam, high temperature steam. If you subject your skin or your body to steam, it's not fire, it's just extremely high temperature. Your flesh will burn right off, right? And you'll look at your burnt off flesh and you go, look at that. Heat does harm you.
Ouch.
Right? It harms the food. It harms the food as well. Okay, so you are destroying food when you cook it. But if you have to, steam your food instead, because it's a better option and you retain more nutrients, and you can still enjoy a very nutritious meal that is lightly steamed.
Awesome. I'm excited for this challenge. I'm probably gonna be super hungry. Like I'm a big human being. So
you know what? Don't skip for people that are going to take that challenge. If you're hungry, just eat more. Don't worry about calories. Don't worry about charting your calories or whatever. I don't want anyone to do anything like that. Just if it's fruits and vegetables, just eat when you're hungry. Just the natural thing. Eat when you're hungry, because you're going to want to replace the deficit created by natural foods by eating more. So just do that. Okay. So don't be uncomfortable. Right? This is the test phase. So just experiment with it, have fun, don't get hungry, and just see what happens. Yeah.
If you guys have any results, go ahead and you guys can send it to me, or in a minute he's going to tell you where you guys can speak to him. You can send it to him. I'll send him my results. And one last thing, I told you my buddy was probably one of your biggest fans. If you can give him a shot, I told him I would. His name is Dakota.
Cool.
He's been watching this whole thing. His eyes are glued.
Oh, amazing. Dakota, thank you so much. Thank you so much for thinking about what I have to say, following me on the channel. I really, nothing feels better than when people email me, people respond to me and tell me, hey, Eli, you to really clarify in a simple way all of these contraptions and all of these conventions that, these lies in the food industry and health culture, and hearing when people are getting better and getting healthier, their sleep is improving, these messages I get, it's so rewarding. So thank you so much for introducing me to Jeremy, and Jeremy, thank you for having me on the show. And yeah, I really hope that this helps someone out there. If I've helped one person, then I consider my job done.
Hey, that's our same motto at Kingscast, is that we save one life at a time.
Oh, crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, so, that's it. Yeah.
Let everyone know where they can find you, your YouTube channel, everything, because cool. It's been an honor for you to be on the show, and I appreciate you enlightening me on what I could change. So go ahead and tell everyone where we can find you.
Yeah, of course. And trust me, the honors all mine. Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the time of day, because it's not everybody that wants to hear this, right? Let's just be honest. You can email me at freemeloneli@gmail.com. So my YouTube channel is the Freemelon Society on YouTube. So you can go there and you can check out my videos. You can check out the stuff I've done. I have videos on the fasts that I've done. I'll show for the athletes out there. I have a video that you might want to see. It's called The Curious Case of the Fruit-Eating Man. And there you'll see a lot of the physical activity that I'm doing as of now, as of today. And this is my fifth year. I'm in my 5th year of eating and living this way. And it's just great. It's just great. So you can check out the Freemelon Society on YouTube. You can email me at freemeloneli@gmail.com. And if you have particular questions or whatnot, you want to set up a consultation. So that's how you reach me.
All right. Thanks again, Eli, and everyone. Have a great day. Have a great Sunday. And Eli, also, have a beautiful Sunday, my man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Peace, everybody.